Hey YouTubers, this is arguably going to be one of the most important YouTube videos that I've ever made in my YouTube career, with or without my partner in crime, Gunnison Undercover. And I'm going to give a little background before I go into making the video. It involves making a phone call. So I just want to put all the details out there so that the viewers can understand our current dilemma. Well, lately, me and Gunnison have been focusing on the most grotesque waste of financial resources in Monmouth County. And lo and behold, as everybody knows, and any of our viewers is aware of, our number one entity that we've focused on as the waste roll of the county has been the Monmouth County park system. And even in the park system, there are things that are relatively efficient, and there are things that you just have to shake your head at and say, "How did this get to be as big of a waste as it is?" And the one thing that we've uncovered in the park system is that the park has been operating its very own horse farm that provides lessons to disabled children and to different kinds of groups that seek equestrian-based therapies. And it's not cheap to take care of a horse, folks. And this place has well over a dozen horses. So me and Gunnison, we discussed it and we averaged out the math. And by my calculations, which I know he doesn't agree with, he thinks they're a bit high, to take care of all of the horses' foods and veterinary needs, plus the staff expenditures, Sunnyside Horse Farm or Sunnyside County Park has to be costing the taxpayers in the range of $3 to $5 million, in my estimation. And when me and Gunnison, we hammered home about this, the county deputy director of parks, Mr. Andrew Spears, saw it befitting to basically come on Facebook and say that our facts were wrong, and the dozen plus horses only cost the county a couple $100,000, et cetera, et cetera. So what I started doing to uncover the waste and to investigate the waste is I started to file OPRA requests. And one of the biggest OPRA requests that I have filed is one that seeks the cost of veterinary care for all the horses at Sunnyside Park for the calendar year 2017. And surprisingly enough, they have dragged their feet on responding to that OPRA request and giving me the information. When I called back the first time for it, Monmouth County essentially told me to take a hike and denied that the information was overdue. So today we're going to call back the Monmouth County Clerk of the Board's office, and we're going to do a little follow-up and see where our information is regarding the expenses at Sunnyside Park. Cell phone. Phone number. Bam, got it right here. The phone number is 732 431 7387.
Good afternoon, Clerk of the Board's office. This is Susan.
Hi, Susan. How's your day going, ma'am?
Good, thank you. And yours?
Very good.
Good.
I'm
What can I do for you?
I'm calling up in response to the OPRA request that I filed on October 18th. I still haven't heard anything back about it.
And whose name is on there for request?
Matthew T. Miller.
Matthew T. Miller. Okay, hold on. I'll just see what I can find.
Okay. Thank you very much, Susan.
Sure. Hi, can you just hold on another minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And you are Matthew?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for keeping you waiting.
It's okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can I call you back because I have to look in your I filed the paperwork already.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
And your number?
My number is 609 784 6203.
6203. Okay, I'll call you in just a few minutes.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Well, folks, you know something? I think we're going to stay on and have a fireside chat until our newly found friend Suzanne at the Monmouth County Clerk of the Board's office returns my phone call with the information or an excuse, which I think is more likely in this instance. Because let's face it, folks, okay? Me and Gunnison Undercover, we have a history of revealing controversial things. I think that the most controversial thing that we uncovered the first time was probably the $200,000 to $300,000 in overtime that Monmouth County paid at the 2017 county fair. Now, what people don't understand is when these entities do these things, they do them for a reason. In this case, I'll tell you what that reason is. Andrew Spears and the Monmouth County Parks Administration does not want the average Monmouth County resident to know what is being spent to maintain that horse farm less than a week away from the election. That's what it is. Okay? Because that type of information infuriates people. Okay? The average Joe that makes $60,000 to $70,000 a year does not want to hear that we're spending $3 to $5 million to keep a horse farm open and running in the county. Okay? We have bigger problems than that. We have neighborhoods in Asbury Park and Edentown that are gang-ridden. Okay? We have drive-by shootings. We have drug dealers. We have streets that haven't been maintained in God knows how many years. But they have their horse farm. Yeehaw. Exactly, Gunnison. Homeless need help. I mean, we have a tremendous drug problem along the Long Branch Pier. But let's take care of the horsies and give the kitties lollipops and balloons. You know? But you notice something. In this instance, when I called her up, like Gunnison Undercover and I spoke about, I did not give her the opportunity to rewrite the narrative. All my viewers can see what is going on. And if I do not hear back in the next 20 minutes, she's going to get a phone call again. But in between now and then, we need to discuss what we're going to do in Monmouth County. Monmouth County has and always will be, for the foreseeable future, the base of our operations, me and Gunnison Undercover. And this year, even though me and Gunnison side predominantly with Republican ideals, we don't necessarily feel that having one party control the board of freeholders is a wise idea. Okay? It's just like Congress. I mean, yes, I am a registered Republican. I'm a moderate to liberal Republican. But nonetheless, I don't think that all 435 seats should be controlled by either party. And the same goes for the local and county levels. Okay? We should not have the Republican machine controlling the whole board. Because what happens is, without a watchdog, without a voice of opposition, these kinds of things, this kind of malfeasance grows like a weed, folks. I mean, at this rate, in the next 5 years, the Monmouth County Park System is going to surpass a budget threshold of well over $125 million. I mean, people don't want to hear that thing. People will say, oh, okay, well, the workers in the park make next to nothing. Okay, well, right now, what are there? 37 county parks? Well, each one has a superintendent. The superintendent's making between $1.30 to $1.50. An assistant superintendent makes, oh, I don't know, what, $115 to $120. We can do the math. I mean, that right there is, it has to add up to at least 10 to 15 mil for all the superintendents, assistant superintendents, salaries, their benefits, take-home vehicles, which is going to be another thing that we cover in videos to come. I mean, recently the Board of Freeholders approved the law enforcement contracts for the Sheriff's Department and the Prosecutor's Office personnel. And these contracts are unprecedented. They're some of the most generous in central New Jersey. I mean, when you think about it, there is such a thing as central New Jersey. People say, no, there isn't. There's a north, there's a south. No. But Monmouth, Middlesex, and Somerset counties, and 102. Those four, that's central Jersey. Once you go past Monmouth and you go into like Toms River, that area, you're in South Jersey. That's the beginning of South Jersey. But the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office is now paying a detective after 5 years well over $95,000. Okay. And I understand that that's nothing compared to most municipal police salaries. But what's the one thing, if you think about it, that if you work for the prosecutor's office as an investigator, you're going to get? Overtime. Overtime. You know, we did a video not too long ago that focused on a prosecutor's official who's going to be unnamed for all intents and purposes, who was caught on camera and at the very least misrepresented herself. Well, my question is how much longer are the county's voters and the county's constituents going to sit back on their asses and let county officials misrepresent themselves? Because I have a feeling, much like that prosecutor's official, that Andrew Spears misrepresented the truth about how much money is being spent on Sunnyside. I believe that. I just got an email, but it's not from them. I thought it was, but it's not. So I'm going to just sit back here, call back my good friend Suzanne when the time hits 2:50. Give her a nice 10, 15 minutes. People think this is a joke, but it's really not. Because if you let the government start to lie to you about the little things, then the big things seem not that big of a deal. Okay? It's a slippery slope, and it's one that we have to avoid at all costs. Hello?
Hi, is this Matthew?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Susan from Clerk of the Board's office. I read the information incorrect. Your response is due today by 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So look for it by then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Wow, it's due by 5 o'clock today. These people don't mince minutes, that's for sure. You know, I'm going to call up. I'm going to get my good friend on the show. Johnny, you know it's coming. That's Gunnison.
Hey, man. Good job. You building bridges.
I know. We're not going to let them trample over our rights this time, John.
Are we on live on the air?
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
It's Gunnison Undercover, my better half on YouTube. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, lady? Did you listen to my phone call with the
Yes, I did. You're so sweet, my teeth are aching. What teeth I got left?
That was funny. So what do you think? Do you think that they're stalling?
Well, they said they're going to have it by 5 o'clock now. That's interesting. They think they quit like about 3:30, don't they?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. There's nobody in there past 4:30. That's the point I was just about to raise that point.
And what, 2:30 now, so they've got about an hour, which means they got about a half hour because they got to start cycling themselves up to leave.
Let me ask you something. At first, you thought it was a little. You thought I was paranoid by thinking that they don't want the information to get out there, right? But do you remember when we filed the OPRA request for the county overtime for the county fair in 2017? You remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember how much stalling they did?
Well, it took a little bit to get it out, but they eventually coughed it up.
Yeah, because we went on YouTube from the Monmouth wreck, from the Fort Monmouth wreck, and we threatened a lawsuit. And the day fucking after, or excuse my language, well, this isn't monetized anyway. The day after we threatened that lawsuit, I had an email in my inbox that had the information that we requested. The day after. So.
Well, listen, we know the Parks Department is monitoring Gunnison Undercover. They probably monitoring you also.
Yeah.
And I've got attention to them again because I posted that video on they had on the park's Facebook, they said, "Oh, take a day trip out to the park," and then they mentioned up to the park. So I said, "Well, I took a rainy day trip to the park." Your employees are doing on a rainy day.
Now, let me ask you something. How many parks that you're aware of do they have actors and actresses or reenactors?
The only one that I'm aware of is over at Homedale Park at the Long Street Farm.
What about the Fort Monmouth Battlefield?
The rest of the parks out there are fiddly parks, like Shark River Park. Now, Turkey Swamp, I don't know, Turkey Swamp more of a camping place, but I haven't been there in a while, so I don't really know. So the rest of the parks around town are all small parks.
What about Fort Monmouth Battlefield, Gunnison?
You think about Monmouth Battlefield, that's a state park.
Oh, that's not operated by the park system?
Yeah, that's a state park as far as they know.
Oh.
And the only other parks are like, little parks like that, the Bayshore Waterfront Park. That's just maintenance help there. Same with the Shark River Park's just maintenance help.
Yeah. And I mean, the majority of the people in the park system, I agree with that. That out of their several hundred employees, most of them make pennies, but it's the top echelon, the top 5 to 10% that are making these big bucks. I mean, what do you?
Like they're all connected.
Yeah. I mean, it's like.
You take like your Karen Livingstone. Why did she get a $10,000 raise a year after she was got an ethics complaint, was caught on video disrespecting a citizen?
That's the other point too. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I've asked numerous times how they're calculating these raises. I asked the Rangers. I asked Andrew Spears. And every time that I ask that question, I get a different answer. Okay?
I think when they have, like, say I'm here at Cheesequake Park, which I'm familiar with, that they have, like, the one guy works here, he's a level 2, and he's making, I don't know, it's around $49,000. The other guy's like a level 1, and he's making around $35,000. So I think they give different levels to it, and that determines the raise. There's got to be a schedule, too. They can't just arbitrarily say, I like you, Matt, we're going to give you a $10,000 raise, because the other guy's going to say, well, why is he getting a $10,000 raise and I got a $5,000? We do the same thing.
Well, that's what it appears. I mean, I'm not arguing. You're right. You're 1,000% right. But I still think that's from the outside looking in, that's certainly what it appears that they're doing. I mean, it's like Karen Livingstone. Karen Livingstone, they changed.
Karen Livingstone gets a raise to do something else. In fact, she's really not doing anything except running away from cameras.
Exactly. But with Karen Livingstone, John, she was a public information officer and she was making $39 and change. Then they gave her that raise to recreation supervisor, recreation director, whatever, recreation supervisor.
Yeah, and recreation. So she went from a public relations person to a supervisory position. I like to know what she supervised. That's what I really like to know. And then I would go down there and investigate that.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is I compared her salary with the other recreation supervisors, and they're all over the place. I mean, you have people right now that are in her same category with the same years in that are making $39,000 to $42,000, and she's making and she's making $49,000 and change.
I don't know. Say you're making $39,000, and maybe it's based on a percentage of what you're already earning. So maybe it goes up whatever it is, 20%, 25%. And that's based on what your salary was for. So somebody's making $35,000 and they got a rate supervisory, they went up 25% of what that salary is.
When I called up, or when I pulled up the minutes to the Monmouth County Parks system, their board, the Board of Park Commissioners, and I pulled up the minutes and I looked at the Rangers' names. I pulled up the 5 Rangers that all started as level 1 Rangers. And we're familiar with the one gentleman whose name is not going to get mentioned on this production. But out of the 4 or 5 of them that started together, one guy was making I think it was 23.5 or 24.5, something like that. And the other guy was making like 41.8. I mean, and they're all level 1. So what I'm thinking is, and it's possible that they're paying extra for education or military experience, shit like that.
There's got to be because again, like I said over here at Cheesecake, that is a state where these two guys basically doing the same thing, but one's got getting paid more than the other because one's a level 1, the other one's a level 2.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, I hope that I'm wrong. I mean, right now, I hope in my heart of hearts, not being a wise guy, I hope that there is no funny business like that going on in the parks. I mean, we certainly saw how quick Data Universe was fiddling around with salaries, like Andrew Spear's salary. I knew right now that he was making far more than what anybody at the park said he was making. I remember people.
Here's the deal, man. I don't think anybody in the entire time that the Monmouth County Park's been in business has ever stopped and taken a close look to see what's going on.
No.
So they pretty much are doing what they want, maybe because they think they can get away with it, maybe because they just think that's the way it is, and that's the way we've been doing it. But nobody's ever paid any attention. Here we are, we're stopping, we're paying attention, and Sunnyside's a good example of that. Nobody ever stopped to pay attention. They just think, oh, it's getting donations from Spur. Oh, that's great. Well, you know what happens when Spur doesn't get any donations that year? All of a sudden, that 254 taxpayers' pocket just ballooned to 400,000.
Exactly. And I think that it's worth our time and it's worth our viewership to not today or tomorrow, but in the foreseeable future. We're going to do a video, and it's going to be called Jamming with Jimmy Trunzer. And we are going to investigate and find out exactly what the 84-year-old who's paid almost $200,000 to run the Monmouth County Park System.
I believe he gets $194,000. I think that's what I read.
Yep, and he's 84 years old. So.
Yeah, you know, he's got a no-show job. You know, come on. I'm not putting old people down because that old thing is right around the corner for me. But I can tell you this much: at 80-some years of age, your energy level is nil. So that guy's basically coming in. He probably gets up 5 in the morning. He shows up at 7. He drinks his coffee. He pats Karen Limstone on the ass. He reads the newspaper. And by 10 o'clock, he's wiped, so he's leaving. He's out riding around, checking out the golf courses. That's what he's doing. I'm telling you, that's what you think that guy sits there and makes decisions about anything. Absolutely not.
Spears is running the show.
Yeah, everybody says, hey, Andrew, what's going on today? Well, you know, Mr. Trunzer, I just gave Karen Limstone a raise. She's a good girl. Give her a raise. Yeah, how's Bel Air Golf Course going? Oh, Mr. Trunzer, it's a home run, man. Good. How's that new park come along? You know, the one that's got the house my nephew's living in?
What title do you think that they give the college girl that puts on his bib and feeds him his baby food?
Oh, she's a what do you call that? A program employee.
She's a program supervisor.
Ones that do all the real work, the dirty work. Those are the program employees. They're making $9 an hour. And
it's like, and that's the other point that we're going to get into with Sunnyside, and it's not going to go away. They can't deny it. I'm going to bring up the point that why we have, I mean, look, I get it, John. Okay, that most of these parks, the majority of them, I mean, yes, the quarters was there. It was a perk of the job, letting a ranger use the house rent free, et cetera, et cetera. But when we're dealing with the serious inventory of multi-million-dollar horse collection that Sunnyside has, shouldn't we have somebody living there and staying there that can respond to emergencies diligently?
Well, I would think so. I would think, as I told you yesterday, that they should have some type of video surveillance cameras in there that can be monitored 24 hours a day, maybe out of the county at the 911 facility, or somebody out there can monitor it, or whoever monitors video cameras for the park system responds to calls from the park, that they should be monitoring those horses, because if one of those, you know, they don't know those horses are going to drop dead until they show up in the morning at 7 o'clock, and all of a sudden Trigger's on his back with his feet pointing up in the air.
I mean, and you know something too? We've been given over the years, and I can't recall from who, we've been given conflicting information about Sunnyside, about the ownership of the horses. I mean, and lately, or the last piece of information that you grabbed from the park's public information officer, she vehemently denied that any of the horses are privately owned.
Listen, feed a horse or how much it costs to run that facility. Now, she's supposed to be the public relations officer for that Sunnyside. I expect her to know many things about the horse and not to sit there and give me this standard thing and say, oh, you know, how much it costs for ride lessons? No, but I'm sure I can go online real quick and find out. It's on the spur thing, but she knew how much the ride lessons were. But the important things that somebody would want to know, because those are things that cost you money, she doesn't know jack all of.
No.
So maybe we should do an overquest to find out, get the history on the horses, the medical records.
I have them right up here. Not the medical histories, but it's like I said yesterday. I pulled up the Spur website, Monmouth County Spur, right here, Spur Sunnyside Equestrian Center. And for those viewers that don't know what Spur is, a Spur is the slush fund that Monmouth County uses to try and conceal exactly how much money taxpayers are spending to keep this place up and running.
Hey, right. For you, those of you out there don't understand, what Monmouth County does, if you go to the website for Sunnyside Equestrian Center, they present it. See, I want to get back to my cousin Vinny, and they talk about interpretation and presentation, how you present it, how it's interpreted. And they present Sunnyside as being this equestrian center for disabled children. And they make it sound like the Spur organization, hence Monmouth County, is generating all these funds, all these donations, and that's what's paying for everything. But the fact of the matter is, it's not paying for all of it. It's only paying a portion of it. It's paying approximately they tax about $300,000 comes in a Spur, and then there's like another $100 something comes out of a trust fund, and the remaining of it is picked up by the taxpayer. So far they reported $700,000 for 2017, but it's all BS because they're presenting this farm like it's a publicly donated and run farm. So you the person, the sheeple that doesn't know any better, look at that. Oh, that's nice. Little autistic kids, people like Jen Thompson go for a pony ride. And the fact of the matter is, it's a very expensive pony ride. And if you sit there and you look at $254,000 and divide that by the 17 horses that they got there, that's how much it costs for those pony rides. Okay, and that's only that figure of $254,000 could balloon if they don't get any donations that year to help supplement the equestrian center. And the other issue I brought up is, why don't they have an open pony ride to help cover the cost? I don't have a problem with the equestrian center as long as it's not costing me money, because this is a specialized activity like playing golf. I don't play golf, but as it appears so far, the golf makes enough money. Actually, it operates at a profit for the county, so I'm fine with that. But pony rides for autistic kids or disabled children is costing money, and not to sound like a Scrooge or a grumpy old man or a mean old person, but we have to be financially mindful about what we're doing, and there could be better ways to give these children a pony ride. Maybe we can rent out we could lease that out with another horse farm that has horses that are calm, and you put the thing out there. We want to give you
real quick, Gunnison. How many horses they have? 17, right?
There's 17 horses that I have counted.
What I want to know is where they reached that number. I mean, how did they come to that number 17? It's not quite a baker's dozen or a baker and a half's dozen. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
They just get these donations, these donated horses, and like the Palominos, and somebody says, oh, Palomino, that's an expensive horse. We're getting it for free. And the person getting the horse is having to get rid of the damn horse because they can't get rid of the horse.
Right now, I want to, for all of our viewers that are out there, I want to go over, not in depth, but I want to discuss the horses. These horses that are being kept aren't your average farm horses that you would take for to a petting zoo or for kids.
Well, some of them are Palominos. I know one of them is a former racehorse. They got some nice horses, but these are also specialized horses. Disregarding their breed, those horses are there because they have a temperament that is very calm, and they're not going to sit there and say somebody like Jen Combs goes for a pony ride and holds a balloon in her hand. She's not going to go flying off the horse because the horse gets spooked or anything.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen to our good friend Jen, John?
Well, if you want to get on that subject, we haven't talked about it in a while. What the hell, right?
while I'm waiting for my.
It's always good for 5 minutes.
It's
Our dear friend Jen Combs. Here's what I think. And I'll end the conversation with Matt on this, with this topic. Jen Combs has a new lawyer.
a public defender.
She has a public defender who, in my opinion, has a better head on his shoulders than old Krispy Kreme law firm, okay? I don't know what he did to her, but he got a hold of our citizen idiot out gathering content from arrest, got a hold of her, smacked her in the back of the head and told her, you better knock it off or you're going to go to prison. And so you notice now she's shut up. She's not doing these live streams every night. She's pretty much kept her mouth shut, though I am surprised she's still going out and bugging the police.
Yeah.
But she's, it's just funny, and I'll tell her, when she goes out and does the live stream on the police, I call the police department up and let them know.
Do you remember when that retard tried to say that we were lying and making stuff up about her being on PTI?
Well, we haven't lied about anything, and what you're going to find out, people, is that, and another, I'm saying by Easter, end of February, that our citizen idiot out gathering content for arrest will be in prison or in a hospital. One of the two. She will not be living on Steiner Avenue in Neptune City.
I was thinking about asking about calling her up and asking if she wants to go out for trick-or-treating. I can play a surgeon, and she can be my lobotomy patient.
Well, she's doing trunk or treat with the police.
What's that mean? They're going to stick her in a trunk?
Where the police cars set up the trunk and the kids walk around. It's all part of the propaganda. And they hand out candies from the trunk.
You know something? I mean, to be in her situation, somebody that's been arrested well over 24 times. She's been arrested like 25, 30 times. And she still thinks the cops are her friends and that not all cops are bad. She is so stupid.
Did you watch Mr. Kudrick over at Alphatchet, the police chief? Boy, he worked her over like no one. I bet he gave her a balloon, a lollipop, and she probably got a PAL t-shirt. Please have a t-shirt.
Wait a minute, John. Do you think he swore? You think he swore her in as an honorary deputy behind the apple cider stand?
Oh yeah, she's the mascot. That's why I asked the chief on one of those. I said, you got a real mascot there.
John.
That's how he learned real quick how to get rid of her because she's a pain in the ass to everybody. He gave her a lollipop, a balloon, and made her an honorary mascot, and
yeah.
She's in love now. She thinks that not that I'm saying Andrew Kudrick is bad or anything. I don't know. But let's face it. The reality. I think the chief of police over Howell is a stand-up guy because when Lieutenant Richard Creepy Conte got arrested, he was
sergeant. He was a sergeant.
Well, whatever he was, he got arrested, and the chief didn't waste no time. He got out there and he made a statement about it, and he denounced what the guy did, and he said he embarrassed me, and that's it. So he didn't hide on a desk or try to rewrite the narrative. He just addressed it, and he got my respect over that.
Yeah, but the reality of the situation, what Jen will never understand, is a guy like Kudrick, he doesn't really give a shit about her, does he?
Listen, we all know who they care about. They care about their fellow gang members, and they care about their family. That's what they care about. They care about. I've had this conversation in other videos that I made that they care about two things. They care about covering their brother's back out on the road, and they care about coming home to their family. Those are the two things they care about. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, and you know something? I mean, you and I, we support the cops when they're right, and we bash them when they're wrong. Okay, somebody like Jen still.
I don't think bashing is the correct word. I think exposing is the correct word. And I'll give you an example. Now, and I'm going to do a video about this. It's going to get done today. And I'm going to talk about, you have Mr. Cook over there in Englishtown, the most unqualified acting police chief in Monmouth County, possibly the state.
Yeah.
And they took aim at me on Facebook and say that, there's people out there that are cop haters and bash the police. Well, that's not true. We report the truth about the police, and unfortunately, most of what the police do is negative.
Yeah.
It's inherited in their job. I mean, I'm not saying they go out and get a bank robber or stop a bank robber. That's a fantastic thing they did.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would give them a thumbs up and a pat on the back for that. But when they're sitting there like they do over in Englishtown, just pull people over one after another, and the whole purpose of it has nothing to do with safety is secondary. It's all about generating revenue, and that is negative. There's also a video I just posted on my Facebook page of Allentown police getting caught on surveillance cameras, knocking a guy down, and then the football team all piled up on top of the guy. And this is the truth about what they do. I don't get on there and make lies about cops. I don't do that. I don't.
Everything that we have ever said, including what we've said about Tom to change Jersey style, has been
true. I don't get on there and lie about people because one, that's a liability. Two, you got to remember when we talk about something, we define who we are, not the person that we're talking. I'm going to talk about somebody. I want to make sure I'm spewing the truth about somebody. They come back and say, well, what's that say about you? It's going to say, well, I reported the truth. This is what the guy did. I didn't make it up. And, sometimes I offer commentary, but that's an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Yeah. But when I point out something that the cops do, like what's going on over in Englishtown, that's not bashing the cops. It's exposing.
Okay. I'll substitute my word choice. We support the cops when they do something correct or they do something beneficial for society, and we critique and expose their behaviors and their misconduct.
I support police who are humans first and police officers second. I support police who use discretion on things and say, should I lock this guy up for this stupid little thing, or should I just tell him to knock it off and send him on his way and be done with it? Those are the police that I support. I don't support the ones out there that just want to arrest, get their numbers up, make themselves look good on paper, try to get a promotion, try to get a raise, try to feed their egos, try to beat people up, find excuses to rough people up. Those are the police I don't support. I support a good officer who factors the human part of his brain, an officer who's compassionate, and he has empathy, and he uses judgment when he's dealing with people, and he tries to de-escalate it, not try to escalate it, and those are the officers that I support. Whenever I see the harass, extort, hurt, and escalate into the factor, that's a bad cop. That's when I see a bad cop. When those four factors aren't present, that's a good cop.
When you met, we met acting chief of police Peter Cook. We met him. You had a...
Not direct, not face to face. He was sitting in the car.
Yeah, but you conversed with him.
Yeah, briefly. I asked him how his race went. He said he didn't get it.
From what we saw from Peter Cook, doesn't he strike you as an egomaniacal type of guy?
No, he strikes me as the tall, dorky guy in class that wasn't cool.
He strikes me.
And he came to school with his shirt on. His sleeves were like 4 inches too short for his arm. And he wasn't really good at sports. And he strikes me as the dorky guy in school that wanted to be a big shot, but just doesn't have the mindset or doesn't exhibit that kind of energy. And here he is now. He's in this position, and he's just making up a fool of himself because everybody knows what he's up to.
He strikes me. I think that guy has an ego so big, John, it couldn't fit through my doorway.
Well, yeah, he does have an ego because this is why he's going back and forth with me on Facebook because I say something, he said, they got to take aim at me. Well, some people call it propaganda. That's just ego talk, and that's him taking aim at me. I mean, he took aim at me the very first day. We posted that video we recently did back in April or March, whatever it was, and he took aim at me, and it's like, why would you most police departments don't acknowledge any nonsense that you say about it, but he had to take aim at me, and that's just ego going on.
But do you know why?
He's like the big fish in the little pond.
But John, do you know why he's taking aim at you? Because we're getting under his skin. We're exposing all the misdeeds that him and his wife have done over their.
We're talking about subjects that are very uncomfortable for him.
Taboo.
We all know the deals going on over in Englishtown. The town cannot afford that police department, and the only thing's keeping that police department going is all the revenue policing, and this chief is trying to put up this big propaganda book BS about how he's protecting the community that has no crime in it, or very little in it. No. And he's trying to protect himself, and that's what's going on here. And as I keep saying to everybody, get rid of that police department, bring Manalpin in, and if you can, merge with Manalpin, because taxpayers in Englishtown, you are not getting your money's worth here with this clown. He sits at home on the couch with his radio, and he sits there with his wife, and they watch TV together. When the call comes over the radio, he runs out, he jumps in the car, and he goes to the scene.
John, I think when it comes to Cook, if we had to break down the issues, the two that we could public.
There's only one issue. There's not enough money to support there's not enough money to support the police department, and there's not enough going on in that town to even want to have an 8-man police department.
No, but I'm talking about the sub-issues that we could expose to show the financial mismanagement and arguably the corruption in Englishtown, and the one being when him and his wife, and I believe one of their daughters, went down to Atlantic City for the League of Municipalities convention, and how much money that cost the municipality, as well as the mysterious Englishtown. What piece of equipment, John?
Well, we do know that Cook has a history of using township revenue to take trips to Atlantic City. Now, the first time he did, they didn't have anything in the handbook that discussed how township money, public money, should be used for like easy pass, gas going up the grid.
Yeah.
And then hiring dancers at the motel room. They didn't have that in the handbook. Now they have that in the handbook. Now they can arguably say, well, this has to do with government. This is a government educational thing, and the town should pay us. That's an argument for another day.
Our officers, one could make the argument that our officers need to know how to handle prostitutes in more ways than one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when they hired that prostitute, it included lunch. I think they were serving beer to clam that night. Is that right, Mr. Cook? Oh, I'm sorry. We're not supposed to talk about that. Mr. Cook is married. We don't want to do anything to do in the
And I thought he was the son of a reverend. I thought he was a God-fearing Christian man or something.
No, I see. Here's the deal now. You grow up when your parents are around. So say your parents are drunks. Now, You could grow up one of two ways. You could grow up and be a drunk just like them, or you could grow up and be a very outstanding person. Now, in his case, he had a father who, from all I could tell, was very admired by everybody. He's well liked. He was a
reverend.
He was a religious guy for the town or something.
He was a clergyman.
He was a clergyman. That's the word. He was a clergyman, well liked. He was a great guy. And now you have this clown here who wants to be a tough guy. Couldn't be a tough guy because his father raised him to be differently, and of course that kind of makes you look a bit on the dorky side. Yeah. On bull side. So I think he's grown up to be rebellious against his father, who exhibits the teachings of the Christian beliefs that you should do unto others as others do unto you. Yeah. And to have compassion for people, and he clearly doesn't have that, because if you had compassion and empathy for other people, you would sit there and jam them up and tell your police officers to give tickets out for every little thing.
Can I just...
leaving a woman on the side of her road with a toilet seat in her hand and a dozen roses with a little kid in a snowstorm.
Can I just rephrase it, what I think, my view, John, real quick? I think he's a greedy, crooked bastard that has turned Englishtown into his personal fiefdom, and we're beginning to...
I mean, Englishtown is just a little, he wants to be the little czar over there, and unfortunately, maybe the people in Englishtown, and I understand why they have to suck up to him, because they got to live there, they got to navigate there, they don't want retribution, because we all know that these towns will do retribution on you, and so they can't really do anything. So here I am, here you are, and we're talking about it, and that's very uncomfortable for him, because he has a way of shutting us up, because we don't live there. I have no need. I don't ever have to go to Englishtown again if I don't want to.
No.
So there's no need for me to ever go there. And of course, I can talk all I want about Englishtown, and I'm not going to make up things when I talk about it. I talk about things that I can back up, either by example or emails that I have. And what Mr. Cook doesn't understand, that there's people in that town, more than one, that's talking. Yeah. And these people are close to him. So he's a man who's looking around at him and wondering which ones are stabbing him in the back. Yeah. And ready to poke a hole in the side of the ship.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now that with the Libertarian running for council and this and that, and
that's another thing. I'm going to address that in the video also. That there's a libertarian running for council over in Englishtown, and I would seriously suggest to everybody that you vote for this libertarian, not because he's libertarian, but because he's different from the party, the old part cronyism that's going on there right now. He'll go in there and he'll rock the boat, and that's what I want to see over there. I don't necessarily agree with everything a libertarian does, but I tell you what, based on what I see going on at town council at Englishtown, they need an outsider in there to shake things up and stop the cronyism that's going on in Englishtown.
Well, they certainly can't do any worse than what they have already. Let's put it like that.
What's going on right now is a buddy system. It's just a handful of people. They're all taking care of each other. By the way, I told you the other night, I received some information that the chief of police, the judge of Englishtown, the prosecutor of Englishtown, and the mayor, I believe it is, they all, and Mr. Cookie, all get together and come out and have a beer, and they laugh it up and talk about the court cases. How do you feel about that? You think that's wrong?
I think it creates at least the appearance of bias and impropriety. I don't think it supports the notion of judicial independence.
Right, exactly. I have a problem. I don't really have a problem with the chief of police going out with lunch with the prosecutor, but when I see the chief of police, the prosecutor, and the judge, and possibly the mayor, all going out and having lunch together and driving a beer, I got a problem with that because the judge is supposed to be fair and impartial, and we all know municipal judges are not fair and impartial.
That's right.
They're all there to generate money. The whole municipal court is nothing more than a money generating machine, and that's where you get people like the prosecutor tell a cook, hey, look, you need to get more of these kind of cases because we can levy more fines with that.
Yep, and right now, I mean, the Englishtown Police Department and the Englishtown Municipality, for a town its size, they're arguably one of the smallest municipalities to have their own municipal court. Most of the smaller municipalities, John, in South Jersey that are the size of Englishtown or smaller, they share a municipal court. Englishtown does not.
Englishtown is 0.59 square miles.
Yeah, they have their own court.
Just a tiny bit more than a half a square mile, and maybe it might be in landmass it might be a half a square mile if you figure in a lake or a stream.
Exactly. They make their money off of people that have to drive through there every day. That's
right, because there's not enough tax base. That's what I've been saying. There's not enough tax base in that town to support the police department. And I say to all the residents out there, how often do you call the police?
Yeah.
How often?
Yeah.
Never. You never call what? Your dog got off the leash one day? I mean, one day they reported something about they got some raccoons out of a dumpster. Wow, that's what costs the taxpayers $1 million every year?
And right now, they just don't have a pricey police department. They have a fire department that, if I'm not mistaken, runs them almost $1 million a year because they have an independent fire tax.
Well, I think that whole fire commission over there, that's all BS too. I mean, how many fires do they have? Look, it's very important that we have a fire department, but the question is, do we need a fire commission and all that bullshit? What happens to having a volunteer fire department where you elect a chief and you go down there and every month or so you go out there and you stand at the intersection and you vote and collect money and the town gives you some money for equipment upgrade or buy batteries for your radios or tires for your truck and you fill the gas up in the tank at the town gas pump. That's what they need to have. And they don't cost it, but now they gotta have a fire commissioner. They gotta pay them a stipend. And those guys, and one thing I know about firemen, they love buying things. They love buying equipment. They love having radios that they don't need. You know, they go out and they buy the $10,000 radio when you get by with a $2,000 radio. They like buying big screen TVs and bars and all that stuff. And
yeah.
And that's an issue. When it turns into something like that, that's an issue. To me, it should be just a volunteer fire department where, you know, you give the guys a little break on their property tax or something, and they show up and they respond to fires. And you have another firehouse right down the road of Manalba. Again, it all points back to they should merge with Manalba. That's what it should be done.
And what's even sicker about that whole situation right now as we speak is that the Manalapan Firehouse is less than a mile from the Englishtown Firehouse. Less than a mile.
It all points back to they need to merge Manalapan But, there's resistance because if they merge with an Alvin, now you've got town council members, you've got a mayor, you've got a police chief, you've got a couple cronies over there. All of a sudden, they don't have any say in anything anymore. The police department gets absorbed. There's no more town councils for English Town. It's all absorbed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those people are looking out. Those people that are running things over there in that little freaking town building that's about, I don't know, what is it, about 30 feet by 30 feet?
It's about the same size as the restroom at Cheesequake State Park.
I think the restroom over here that I'm looking at right now, Cheesequake, is probably about the same size as the Englishtown Town Hall.
Yep.
And that's why those members running things over there will never want that to happen because they're going to lose money. That's one thing. Not going to get the stipends anymore. They're going to lose power, and they're going to be back to trying to find another job. And so that's where it comes into. They're thinking about themselves, not the taxpayers. Instead of sitting down and say, well, how much would it cost? How much money would taxpayers save if we merge with Monmouth? At minimum, merge the police with Monmouth. How much money would we save? And they don't want those numbers out because those numbers will be the nail in their coffin when it comes to what they're doing. And it all comes down to the ego. They want to be in charge. They want to run things. They want to be big shots. They want to be that big fish in that little fucking pond over there.
And that's exactly, something? I mean, we don't agree on everything, but I agree with you totally on that because that's exactly what's happening. Okay? I mean, you have a police chief in that town who holds multiple titles. He is judge, jury, and executioner, so to speak. He's a police chief, fire chief, OEM director. His wife's the councilwoman that was the council president. Okay? I mean, he basically does whatever the heck he wants.
Yeah, and that's your stuff. Do you really think that Lori Cook, maybe she won't vote on matters of the police department, but you really think that she's going to do anything that's going to affect her financial stability? I think she's got a nice little house down there right down the street from their headquarters. Do you think she's going to vote anything that's going to affect her well-being? Because the only way to save money in that town is to cut back on something. And if they cut back on something, it's going to, the first thing they're going to cut back on is the police department.
Exactly.
And that would affect her. So if her husband's no longer the chief of police anymore, he gets absorbed, he has to go back out and find himself a job. He may get a job at Monmouth, but he's not going to be the chief of Monmouth. He may find himself being a corporal or a road cop.
Exactly. And Monmouth.
Whatsoever. He has nothing on his resume that qualifies him as a lieutenant, as a chief of police. The guy came from Brookdale College. And
Wait a minute, John. At Brookdale College, what did Peter Cook do? I thought he was a valet. He parked cars over there, I thought.
No, listen. I went out to Brookdale College probably at the same time that Peter Cook was an officer out there. And we probably bumped into each other in the lunchroom. And they basically, at that time when he was out there, they stopped this before they even had a circle of front. So sometimes the cops are out there working the traffic. And his job is to ride around and do parking tickets. And maybe somebody stole a pencil or didn't pay for their book, and he'd have to respond to some kid having a meltdown or something. But essentially, there's nothing going on at Brookdale. Maybe there's a first aid call he had to respond to, or a fire call, something like that. But the whole time I was out at Brookdale, which encompassed about 2 years worth, I was out there 2-3 times. I was out there several times a week when I was going there, and I never saw anything going on at Brookdale. Everything was pretty mellow. The only time I actually saw a police forensic present was when the O.J. Simpson verdict was coming over the TV. I was in the community, the lunch area where they serve food at the commons, they call it. I was there, and the police were there to make sure that, nobody would go off the deep end when they announced the verdict.
Yep.
And that's essentially what the police do out there. They do nothing, and that's why I say I always say it's a joke. And how do you get from that to being, so he gets hired over at Englishtown, and of course the other chief is leaving, and Mr. Cook, he's a good boy. I bet he gives a little good reach around there, and he was the one that they appointed to put in as police.
What I think is going to happen with Englishtown, okay? We're going to get a governor eventually that has a set of cojones, not this libtard that we call our chief executive now, okay? And the next we're going to get a governor that says, okay, enough's enough, folks. Okay, the state of New Jersey is not going to give Englishtown $200,000 to $300,000 a year in municipal aid so they can have this.
What's going on? The taxpayers, other taxpayers are supplementing that town, and that town, you don't need to have a multi-million-dollar budget to operate, to oversee half a square mile of property. It's just I mean, I know some apartment complexes are bigger than that. This one over here in Edison probably has more people living in that complex than the whole damn town. You got to remember, Englishtown, the population is under 2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do you have a budget of multi-million-dollar budget? I mean, they're spending $300,000 on employee benefits. So why do we have this kind of budget for 2,000 people? That's absolutely absurd. And anybody would have a brain. I mean, I'm not a scholar by any means, and I can sit there and do the math real quick in my head and say, you know, this is a waste of money.
Yeah. It's
because that money goes out, and there's very little in the way of resources for that town. That's why I say if they merge with Monmouth, that has more resources available, so that would benefit the taxpayers of Englishtown, because now they could go down to a nice municipal center, nice library, all those nice things.
the services are 100 times better almost overnight.
Englishtown has I go by there. It's got a phenomenal looking municipality center there. So you get the benefits of that. You get the benefits of the school. You get the benefits of all the programs that town provides. That this little hole in the wall known as Englishtown can't provide, simply because the tax base is not there. And the people living in that town are not rich. The average income in there, I think, is around. I think it was around 60,000, 70,000 tops. So there's not millionaires living in that town by any means at all.
Yeah.
These are working middle class people in there that are just trying to
survive.
They moved in that town because it's quiet and there's not a lot of crime going on there. And
I think that eventually what's going to happen is the Englishtown police department is going to be forcibly dissolved. It's not going to occur overnight or by their own choice. They're going to have another little mini scandal like they've had in the past, and the prosecutor's office is going to come in and supervise them, and it's going to go the way of Helmeta. You remember how
it's going to take a town council member or two, or some people in the community to put their man pants on and go down and say, enough. I'm tired of paying all this money, and I get nothing in return.
Yeah.
And I got to worry about my friend coming over here at night to see me and getting pulled over by some crooked cop, or I should say crooked, some cop with a revenue motive, not a safety motive.
That's exactly what's happened in these little towns. I mean, not that.
We know that some of the police here are not mindful of safety because they ride around without their seatbelt on, but they don't mind giving you a ticket for that.
I mean, there's a town up north close to where I grew up in, and it's called Southbound Brook. Southbound Brook is the exact same geographic size as Englishtown, except it's much more densely populated. It has a population of like 7,000 or 8,000 people. But in Southbound Brook, it's located between Franklin and New Brunswick, New Jersey.
South Brunswick.
No, Southbound Brook. Yeah.
Right. It's located in a key area because it's right there near 22. It's in some high-influential areas right there. So there might be a better tax base in Southbound Brook as opposed to.
Yeah, but those cops.
Located near anything.
Those cops in the mid-'90s did what Englishtown is doing now. They engaged in revenue-based policing. If you drove through that town and you went 2 to 4 miles over, you got a ticket. They gave out, I believe there was an article in the Courier News from the late 90s, something like 5,000 to 6,000 tickets a month. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, Englishtown, I would like to find out how many tickets they give out a month, the Englishtown Police Department. I'm going to say, if they have their own municipal court, their own municipal judge, their own municipal prosecutor, they must be faring fairly well. Well, I mean,
the municipal court brought in because the police are the revenue generators for the municipality. So that's an indicator, reflection of what the police are doing.
What I would like to know, and this is what actually, even with OPRA, John, it's something that's very hard to find out. I want to get the number of summonses of Title 39 motor vehicle summonses that are issued a month in any given month by the Englishtown Police Department. And I'll bet you.
Maybe I'll put a video out there and challenge Mr. Cook to come out with those numbers. Be a
Yeah.
little more transparent.
Yeah, because you know what, John? Those numbers, to keep that lifestyle, have their own court, where a judge is getting paid 15 to 20K a year, a prosecutor's making 10K.
Oh, yeah, that's just in that town. That's just in this town. What other towns is he working in?
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to predict right now that that town probably they issue at least 500 tickets a month on the light side.
Probably. I told you the inside information is that Cook has told them that they must issue X amount of tickets per month or week in order to meet the budget.
It's sick. Not to get off track, I'm concluding for the day, but guess what? It's 3:30 right now. Guess what I do not have in my email box?
Well, they said by 5. You got an hour and a half. So
John, I'm gonna make a prediction that I never get that today.
Maybe they're working overtime.
I'm gonna make a prediction that I don't get that today. What do you think?
I will concur with that.
And if I don't get that today,
They will call you up tomorrow and say, I'm sorry, Mr. Tim, there was some information that wasn't readily available. The other person left for the day, and we need to get a hold of them, and we'll have it for you by the end of the day, Mr. Tim.
and that's when I call them out and I say, "Oh, you mean that you'll have it for me the day after Election Day when it has no use for another year?"
Now, that's what you remind him. So, you're violating the OPRA here. You're violating my rights and what your job is.
Exactly. I mean,
Freaking job.
I feel.
I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to go for my walk.
I feel though that OPRA damages I should be given, or maybe I shouldn't be given, but they should have to pay a fine, a personal fine out of pocket, for purposely and intentionally violating the Open Public Records Act. And no judge will ever assess it. I mean, they'll be able to do what they're doing. Okay, so they gave it to me 2 days late, and now the information is totally insignificant. I mean, John, if I got that information, this is all I'm going to say, and then you can take your walk, and I'm going to go on the.
If you have that information, and then you get these freeholders having a little town hall meeting, and you get up there and say, well, look, here's some information. What say you about that? What are you going to do about the park budget?
Yeah. How do you feel that the fact that they have 17 horses there, and those horses cost almost $1 million to take care of?
And they don't, and they got to remember, they got a day off from work too. I think the horses work and got a day off, but they do. They're off on Sundays. You know what? I'm going to change that. That's going to be one of my little pet things to do. Is I'm going to get that changed so that those horses work Saturday and Sunday, and they're going to have open pony rides out there for kids under 12.
What do you think about Jen Combs when she gets out of the joint getting a job as a pony ride instructor at Sunnyside, John?
She's never going to get a job. She's a leech of society. We all know that. She sits there and talks about how you want to get me on this subject again? She got on there the other night and says, oh, there's somebody I got to help. I haven't got time.
She can't even help herself. She can't even help herself off the toilet.
But none of the neighbors will ever say, hey, Jen, you know what? You're collecting welfare. I mean, let's call it what it is. She's on welfare, and she's taking advantage of Social Security disability. She's got Section 8 that's paying for her rent. She's got free Medicaid, so she doesn't pay for any of her medical.
And you know what, John? She wouldn't be doing the shit that she's doing if she had to pay for it out of her own pocket.
Right, she'd be eating garbage out of McDonald's dumpster. So her sitting there telling about, taking aim at me or anybody else that's struggling. Who the hell, she ought to get on that. She ought to do a live show every night and thank the taxpayers, me being one of them and you being one of them. Thank the taxpayers for working hard and paying taxes so that she can sit on her ass and not do anything. And I'll just remind everybody, she has a public defender now. So all this crap that she's doing is being paid for by us taxpayers. And more ways than one, John. Not only does she have a public defender, every time the retard goes to a court appearance, she's got the CPC, social worker advocate, that attends with her. Yeah, so CPC is making money off of her.
Off of us.
The court-appointed lawyer is getting money off everything. He's getting money off that case. Now, I will say it's about the public defenders in their defense. They're nothing more than deal makers, so they do want to get rid of the case. They don't want to sit on that thing forever, and so they are trying to probably most likely doing the thing that Krispy Kreme was not doing, which is try to get this thing to come to a head and get it over with. But everything that she's doing, every time she talks on the phone, goes out the door, is costing taxpayers money.
Exactly. Exactly.
And this is a woman, I'll tell you a story real quick, and then I'm getting all the fun. I told you about the time I went into McDonald's down in Wall Township. I was in there standing in line getting me for my Big Mac or whatever it was, and this black guy came in there, his legs rolled all up, he could barely walk. He's like wobbling back and forth, his arms are kind of screwed up. And he goes in there, and McDonald's hands him this bag with a sticker on it. He was doing DoorDash. He was delivering McDonald's. And I thought to myself, look at this poor slob. The poor guy's got nothing going for him, but he's working. And I wanted to go out there and help the guy get out the door, but I know that they don't like that for you to help them.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, why can't this citizen idiot gathering content for an arrest do the same thing? She's got a car, she can drive, she can navigate, and she has enough sense to go knock on the door and say, here's your dinner.
It requires too much effort and energy. She'd rather leech off the taxpayers at her pleasure.
Right, and I'll just remind everybody else how she doesn't pay for her car insurance. She's had several tickets for driving an uninsured car, which means her car insurance is due stealing. She had a car that she's driving at the brakes are ready to fall off. She said on her live stream, "We're going to get the big tomorrow." So I want everybody to know out there, when she goes out in that broken down car, harassing the police, that she has the risk of getting in a bad accident and not having car insurance is a reality that has a big probability of happening. So to you out there that are supporting this idiot, that's what you're supporting. You're supporting somebody who's sponging off the taxpayers.
What do you think about Old Throat Cancer, her sidekick, Old Throat? Hello, Jen, you can do it, girl. You can do it.
Well, you know what? Personally, I don't really think it's a bad thing to say to somebody who has some alleged disability, though she's never told anybody what it is. The speech impediment is not her disability.
No, she has some kind of psychiatric issues.
Right. It's all right to tell somebody, hey, go after your dreams, rah, 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 shit's going by. To go after your dreams and do what it is you want in life. There's nothing wrong with telling somebody that. But when you got somebody going out and following her dreams, which is getting her arrested numerous times, causing her problems, causing her freedom, and costing taxpayers money,
and
that's when the line gets drawn.
And I want to interrupt. I don't want to make a big stink about it, but I want to say one thing right now. Okay? Right now, when Jen's whole resisting arrest PTI debacle in Hunterdon County, okay, from the arrest to the PTI, the probation officer, her CPC advocate, the Hunterdon County prosecutor's office, the court time, she had to have cost the taxpayers at least $300,000 to $400,000. And the way that
everybody a lot of money. And I'm going to leave you with this because I'm going to get off the phone. She has been lying and using deception on people since day one until you and I came along and started pounding the drum about crap that she was doing and exposed it. Now she talked about it. But for those out there, I want you to know that she is a person who is not truthful at times.
She never is.
And this is, if you're supporting her, that is what you're supporting. You're supporting somebody who uses deception as one of her tools in life. That you don't necessarily get the whole picture of what's going on. We painted the picture of what's going on. We put through all the information out there, and we exposed her. Even though she said, "Oh, I vindicated myself." No, you didn't. You're in the county.
She admitted it. She admitted everything that we had accused her of. And don't you remember when Cindy Moore called in when Jen was?
The one thing she said well, I was not in county jail over the weekend because there was warrants out for me. It was an error. Now, there was warrants out for her, and they put her in that jail, and they got a hold of those towns, and the town said, let her go. We don't need her right now. And they let her go. And Will Township was one of the big ones she had a warrant on, and she took a plea deal on that and settled it. So we were correct while she was out there. They don't put you in jail in county because you got arrested, because there's a bail reform in New Jersey. Now, essentially, unless you kill or rape or rob somebody, you don't go to prison, you don't go to jail. They release you.
Yeah.
When we county for a bench warrant, and a bench warrant means that you did not appear to court when you were supposed to appear.
When we called her out about PTI and her little sidekick, throat cancer, called into her show, okay, and you could tell they had a disagreement too, because she had obviously misrepresented her situation to old throat cancer, okay.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the deal with throat cancer. Throat cancer, you know, I would say it's about her. I think Cindy's intentions for Jen are well-being, but I think her well-being is going to cause Jen problems, because Jen cannot think like you and I.
Yeah.
And I think at some point Cindy's going to wake up and realize, there's a problem here.
Yeah, she's going to wake up and realize it when Cindy wakes up and realizes it from her own bed, and Jen is sitting in the county or in the state prison.
Right, because the things that she did.
Yeah.
Maybe Jen will wake up and say, you know what, Cindy told me to do this, and I was stupid enough to listen to her.
Yeah.
So, Cindy's not a stupid person. I hear her talk, and she talked about a few things that I actually agree with her. It's just that the only thing I don't agree is that she's encouraging the idiot to go out and do the things she's doing when she's getting in trouble. And the system's screwed up, and it's discriminatory at times. That's why you got to sit back and say, well, do I really want to go out and take this chance and get arrested? Because the system is screwed up, and it's like, there's better ways to expose the system, and doing it at personal risk of your freedom and your financial well-being is really a risky way of doing things.
Well, with that, I'm going to conclude this broadcast.
Right.
It's great having you on, John. I mean, we have more work to do in Monmouth County.
Yes, we do, and I'll be probably putting out a video later today, and I'll take this video here that we just did, and I'll repost it. I'm noticing on the cover for the rest of the world to see. And
if I don't hear back from them by 5 o'clock about the OPRA request, I mean, I'm going to basically go on live stream again at 5:30 and talk about how incompetent they are.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right.
I just got to come out and cover everybody. My words to everybody, always watch the police, because they're watching you. And as old Ronnie Reagan said, trust but verify.
And we're watching you.
Cover everybody. See you later.
And I want to conclude this with a shout out to Jen Combs. She's a retard lady from Neptune City.